To all my soldiers who saved through Ellen's banner to pull for Zhu Yuan, I salute you. Zhu Yuan is a super easy to play 5-star DPS, has nice assets, and finally gives us the opportunity to build around the Ether element. She has a great free-to-play team, and as they release more Ether characters or other characters to support her, I think she'll get a little better in the future as well. As always, this Zhu Yuan build guide will teach you everything you need to know about how to play her, build her, and how to give her the best teams possible in patch 1.0. We have a lot to cover, so let's not waste any time and get this guide rolling. Everything about Zhu Yuan revolves around these 9 bullets that she stores right under her character portrait. These are called enhanced shot shells by the game, and when you hold down the attack button, Zhu Yuan will unleash what feels like shotgun shots out of her pistol for massive ether damage until she runs out of these enhanced shot shells. You can also move Zhu Yuan in different directions while holding down the attack button to perform a dash attack that also consumes these enhanced shot shells if you need to reposition. Part of why these attacks feel so powerful on Zhu Yuan is because her core passive will straight up increase the damage dealt by these shot shells by 40% and also double that damage increase if it is dealt against a stunned enemy. While that's great and all, you're probably wondering, how do you even stack these enhanced shot shells in combat? Well, pretty much everything Zhu Yuan does will give her shot shells. You can complete her basic attack chain for 2 shot shells, EX special attack for 3 shot shells, assist follow up after a chain attack for 3 shot shells, use your ultimate for 3 shot shells, and either dodge counter or trigger a quick assist via support / getting knocked back for 1 shot shell. Her EX special attack and ultimate are just pure instances of ether damage, and she's a fairly mobile character, so all you need to do is just stun the enemy as fast as possible, build up enhanced shot shells, and hold down the attack button to consume these shot shells and deal big damage with her core passive. If you're more hardcore and care about combos, then you definitely want to abuse Zhu Yuan's ability to weave in dash attacks whenever she wants. Moving to the side and pressing the attack button right after you gain shot shells from the 4th and 5th basic attacks will cancel her 6th and final basic attack, which allows you to immediately start from her 3rd basic attack to generate shot shells faster. So that combo would look like basic attack 1 through 5, dash attack by pressing a side direction then pressing the attack button again, and then follow up with basic attacks 3, 4, and 5. Disk drives are probably the most complicated part about Zhu Yuan, even though there are really just 2 options for her. The theoretical best option for Zhu Yuan is the 4-set Chaotic Metal plus the 2-set Woodpecker Electro. The reason why I say theoretical is because the 4-set effect wants you to have at least somewhat consistent application of the Corruption Anomaly effect on the enemies. When enemies take the Corruption DOT, the 4-set Chaotic Metal will grant stacks that give an extra 33% crit damage at max stacks. By herself, Zhu Yuan has decent ether anomaly buildup with how front-loaded or back-loaded her ether damage can be, but this 4-set performs the best when you have both Nicole and Zhu Yuan together. Nicole can build up a good chunk of ether anomaly buildup with her chain attack and EX special attack, allowing Zhu Yuan to switch in via chain attack or quick assist, finish off the ether anomaly buildup if needed, and as a result get faster ramp up on the 4-set Chaotic Metal set effect. This ramp up and consistent uptime is extremely important to have because instead of an extra 6.6% crit damage, which is 33% of 20%, like many thought it would be from reading the description carefully, it's actually just a straight up 33% crit damage buff, which is more than double the 20% crit value that it gives unconditionally. That's why if you're not planning to play Zhu Yuan with Nicole, then the 4-set Woodpecker Electro with just the 2-set Chaotic Metal can be very competitive in damage. Even though in practice you're also not guaranteed full uptime on Woodpecker Electro at all times either, if you can't get any sort of consistent corruption uptime on enemies that resist it or boss enemies, then Woodpecker Electro can actually surpass Chaotic Metal by a percentage point or a few. This option is definitely a safe build on Zhu Yuan if you're not committed to building both of the ether units we have on patch 1.0, but it does have a much lower damage ceiling, so that's the biggest downside. On the contrary, this set effect is pretty flexible, meaning you can move most of these pieces onto a different character in the future as an upside. For the stats you want on these pieces, slots 1, 2, and 3 are always going to be flat HP, attack, and defense respectively, so you don't have to worry about that. Slot 4 will be where you build crit rate or crit damage, slot 5 will be ether damage %, and slot 6 will be attack %. On all 6 of your disk drive pieces, the substats to focus are crit stats first, then attack %, flat pen, and flat attack in that order of priority. Moving into Zhu Yuan's best W engines, she shares a lot of similarity with Ellen in terms of what options are the best, simply because we just don't have very many options right now. To no one's surprise, Zhu Yuan's signature W engine Riot Suppressor Mark 6 is the best option given how big of a crit stat stick it is and how tailored its passive is towards dealing ether damage. However, given that Zhu Yuan can already get a ton of crit value via her kit and the 4-set Chaotic Metal, there are two options that can get relatively close in damage. The Brimstone is a great attack percent stat stick and can be in single-digit percent difference territory with Riot Suppressor Mark 6's DPS, depending on how well allocated your stats are, since it does not offer any crit stats at all. Your number 3 option and the best A rank option is going to be the free-to-play W engine Starlight engine, and this weapon's performance is surprisingly close to the Brimstone despite it being an A rank option. At max refinement, it can even outperform the BP weapon Cannon Rotor, assuming the BP weapon is only at R1. This is because Zhu Yuan's additional ability wants a support character on the team, and support characters can help Zhu Yuan trigger quick assists on demand. Triggering quick assists on demand will of course give you extremely good uptime on Starlight Engine's passive, and it's really what makes this free-to-play option shine. However, if both Cannon Rotor and Starlight Engine are at the same refinement level, then you can definitely choose Cannon Rotor instead, because its crit rate main stat will help you optimize your build a lot easier if your disk drives don't have the best substats. Outside of these 4 main W engines that I mentioned, nothing else is really recommended. If you're just starting out, the A rank Street Superstar or the B rank Lunar Pleniluna will work just fine on Zhu Yuan until you get access to one of the main 4 options I discussed in this section. Zhu Yuan is so free-to-play friendly because her team options are very diverse relative to other characters who take a similar DPS role. The reason for this is because Zhu Yuan's additional ability pretty much grants her a free 30% crit rate buff, and it does not limit her to only using characters from the Ether element, which we only have 2 of, including Zhu Yuan herself. Instead, Hoyo changed this additional ability to now activate if there's a support type character in the squad or a character from the same faction. This opens up her team building to revolve around 4 units to pair with Zhu Yuan, which correlate to the 4 different support type characters we have in patch 1.0. The first team is your standard team and your free-to-play option as well, with Zhu Yuan, Nicole, and Ambi. Zhu Yuan and Nicole are the best pairing together given the accelerated rate of ether anomaly buildup of having 2 ether characters and the various buffs that Nicole provides to Zhu Yuan, such as ether damage vulnerability and death shred. The last slot is always going to be a stun type character because Zhu Yuan's core passive heavily incentivizes stunning the enemy as often as possible to double the values on the core passive. So we default to Ambi in this team because she's free, and she also shares the same faction as Nicole to activate her additional ability. In the future, Qingyi will most likely fall in this slot as an Ambi upgrade if Hoyo continues to follow the pattern of characters in the same faction supporting each other like Lycaon and Ellen, Ben and Kaleda, etc. Although we did get drip marketing for Qingyi, do not take this information as true until Hoyo officially confirms that Qingyi will be a stun type character. The best bang boost for the standard team with Nicole, Ambi, and Zhu Yuan will be Rezabu, Emilian, and Devilbu in that order of priority. The second best support pairing with Zhu Yuan is Rina, simply because Rina is quite a powerful character in patch 1.0. Not only does she provide free pen ratio to her teammates, but she's also an electric element unit from the Victoria Housekeeping faction, which means she offers a lot of flexibility in the 3rd slot to activate additional abilities. Probably the best stun option in the final slot of this Rina pairing is Lycaon. Even though Lycaon's Ice Res down debuff is useless for buffing Zhu Yuan, he's the ideal 3rd option when paired with her and Rina simply because he's a stun machine with good days multipliers. However, doing this makes the team extremely premium with 3 different 5-star units, so Ambi can also be used again since she shares the same element with Rina to activate their additional abilities. And as long as Qingyi's additional ability activates with a same element or same faction character in the party, she'll fit right in if she's confirmed to be stun type by Hoyo as well. Overall, using Rina instead of Nicole is sort of a personal preference for those who already have Rina built up. While her buffs are not as potent as Nicole's Death Shred and Ether Damage vulnerability, she provides the same amount of flexibility, or if not more flexibility, in the 3rd slot with Lycaon as well instead of just Ambi. As for the bang boost to use with Rina and Zhu Yuan teams, Rezanabu and Devilbu will always be good for Ether Anomaly buildup, but with Lycaon specifically, you can even use Butler since you'll have 2 Victoria Housekeeping units on the team. Although people commonly think of Soul Kaku as a dedicated ice support due to how well she supports Ellen, remember that her Fly the Flag buff on her hold special attack is a flat attack buff and not an ice damage buff. That means she can also support Zhu Yuan, although maybe not as well as Nicole. The reason why I say that is because no stun character in the game can be put in the third slot of this team aside from Lycan without sacrificing their additional ability. To add on to that, chances are if you have both Lycan and Soul Kaku, you're probably going to be running them with Ellen. The one upside of this team is that both Soul Kaku and Lycan have very respectable daze multipliers, and you'll get some really fast stuns whenever these two have enough energy to fully cast their EX special attacks. Because this team only has Zhu Yuan for the Ether element and 2 ice types instead, using Razanabu or Devil Boo for slightly better Ether anomaly buildup will be your recommended Bang Boos, despite the Bang Boo extra abilities not being activated. And last but not least, we have the pairing of Zhu Yuan and Lucy. While Lucy isn't a weak character, a lot of her teams find success when paired with Piper, who is from the same faction as her, and then a physical DPS like Nekomata or Korin in the final slot, since you don't always need to have a stun type character with the physical anomaly, which helps build up days faster. Unfortunately, Zhu Yuan teams with Lucy don't have that luxury of not running a stun type character. The ideal fire support with Zhu Yuan includes Lucy and Coletta, and unless you're hyper invested into these 3 characters, this team will not surpass the Ice archetype with Soul Kaku and Lycan, the Electric archetype with Reina and Ambi/Qingyi, or the Ether archetype with Nicole. But I don't want to discourage you from running this last team. Lucy is one of my personal favorite characters, and she's actually a very good unit like Soul Kaku with a huge attack buff on her EX special attack and off-field damage, which is very rare in the game currently. The biggest issue with this team comes with Coletta, since she's a 5-star character and the only stun type character that matches Lucy's element or faction for activating the additional abilities of the characters aside from Zhu Yuan herself. Coletta also doesn't have that same smoothness and absurd days buildup that Lycan does, especially since her numbers are slightly lower in teams where you cannot fit Ben, and she's also a little more reliant on her EX special attack compared to Lycan. So until we get a better fire element stun character, or if Qingyi ends up being a great stun support for Zhu Yuan to play in this Lucy team, you'll have to settle for Coletta if you're like me and you're desperate to use Lucy with whoever you can. And just like the team with Soul Kaku and Lycan, using both Lucy and Coletta means your Ether anomaly buildup will be slower without Nicole. Thus, using Razanabu or Devil Boo for your Bang Boo slot will provide slightly better Ether anomaly buildup and will be the recommended Bang Boos for this fire archetype, despite the Bang Boo extra ability not being activated. But with that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this Zhu Yuan guide, and most importantly, I hope this guide was helpful for building the perfect Zhu Yuan on your account. Other than that, it's the same as always. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.